Hello everyone and welcome back to another chilling deep dive into true stories where nature itself becomes the stage for terror. Today's episode is devoted to the world beneath our feet, the caves, caverns, and underground passageways that most of us never see, places where darkness swallows light and where a single mistake can become fatal. Across 4 separate accounts, we'll explore tragedies and horrors that unfolded in caves scattered around the world. Some involve daring adventurers who underestimated nature's grip. Others are about explorers who became victims of circumstances no one could have predicted. And the last story, it is perhaps the most dreadful scenario imaginable. One man, lost in the dark, slowly succumbing to the unforgiving environment of a cave. These stories aren't for the faint of heart. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Imagine driving down Interstate 81 in Pennsylvania, surrounded by farmland and small towns. Beneath your car lies something hidden from almost everyone. A sprawling network of underground limestone passages known as Carnegie Cave. For more than 8 decades, locals and spelunkers alike ventured into this cave system. At just under 2,000 feet long, it wasn't considered extremely dangerous, but it wasn't without challenges: tight passages, pools of cold water, and a single narrow metal pipe that served as the entrance. That pipe, installed in the 1960s during construction of the highway, was about 3 feet wide and nearly 150 feet long. Anyone entering the cave had to crawl through it with the sound of traffic roaring directly overhead. Once inside, explorers would emerge into a concrete chamber, which led to twisting tunnels and chambers that varied from 3 to 10 feet high. On the afternoon of July the 9th, 1967, 3 teenagers, Jerry, Charles, and Nancy, decided to explore Carnegie Cave. Jerry, just 16, had been there before. He was fascinated by caves and had even dreamed of becoming a researcher of them one day. That made him the natural leader of their little group, but none of them were properly prepared. Their gear? Just a single flashlight between the 3 of them. Cavers who visited often placed candles inside the metal pipe to guide the way back out. 2 such candles were already burning as the teenagers crawled into the dark. They passed by those little flames, crouched low, and followed Jerry's flashlight beam deeper into the cold labyrinth. At first, it was exciting. The further they went, the quieter the outside world became. The constant roar of the interstate dimmed until it was replaced only by the sound of dripping water echoing in the dark. The cave seemed endless, a maze of twists and shadows. After nearly 45 minutes of exploring, Jerry asked Charles for the time. Charles checked his watch. It was 2:45 p.m. They decided it was best to turn back before the light grew weaker. But when they neared the metal pipe, something unexpected stopped them: the smell of smoke. At first faint, but growing stronger with every step. Then they saw it. The pipe was on fire. A wall of flames and thick black smoke filled their only way out. Panic swept through them. They tried covering their faces with their sweatshirts and attempted to crawl through. Nancy led first, Charles second, Jerry last. But the heat and smoke were overwhelming, forcing them to retreat after only 30 feet. They tried again, switching order. This time Charles went first, followed by Nancy and Jerry. Again, the burning air drove them back, coughing and choking. But in the chaos, Charles made a desperate decision. He kept going. His friends shouted for him to come back, but he disappeared into the flames. His cries echoed faintly, then fell silent. Jerry, frantic, tried once more to follow, but the inferno drove him back. With no other choice, he and Nancy retreated deeper into the cave, flashlight growing dim, hearts pounding in terror. Outside, a local resident noticed black smoke pouring from the cave entrance and alerted the authorities. Firefighters rushed to the scene, battling flames that had been fueled by tar lining the metal pipe. Meanwhile, Jerry and Nancy huddled together nearly 1,800 feet inside, shivering in the damp, cool air, waiting for help. Hours passed in absolute blackness after their flashlight died. They thought they heard voices, but it was only the cave playing tricks on them. Finally, after 2 hours, real voices came, rescuers calling out. Flashlights pierced the chamber, and Jerry and Nancy were saved. They stumbled out of the cave around 6 p.m., exhausted, but alive. But Charles hadn't made it. Around 3:30 that afternoon, while Jerry and Nancy were still trapped, a resident had seen him stumble out of the cave with his clothes engulfed in flames. Despite being rushed to the hospital, Charles had suffered second- and third-degree burns over most of his body. He died 3 days later. Investigators later concluded that one of the candles near the pipe likely tipped over, igniting the tar-coated walls. A single spark had turned an afternoon adventure into a nightmare. Dr. Alfonso Amores had lived an extraordinary life. For decades, he was a celebrated reconstructive surgeon in the United States, known for his skill and compassion. When he retired, he returned to his native Philippines and dedicated his time to charity, offering free surgeries to the poor, organizing medical missions, even teaching children about marine life. But Alfonso had another passion: cave diving. He was highly trained and widely respected, even co-founding the Filipino Cave Divers Group. For him, retirement didn't mean slowing down. If anything, it gave him more time to explore. In 2010, Alfonso and another diver discovered something that would make international headlines: a hidden underwater cave system beneath the Hinatuan Enchanted River, a place long celebrated in local folklore. What appeared to be just a beautiful blue pool on the surface was actually the gateway to a vast underwater labyrinth. Divers entered through a narrow throat in the riverbed, barely wide enough for one person at a time. On the other side lay the breathtaking mayor's chamber, a room said to be as large as 2 basketball courts. At its floor, 171 feet below the surface, another passage sloped downward, dropping to nearly 300 feet before curving upward into unmapped territory. But there was a danger. A ferocious current like a giant vacuum often sucked divers deeper. Getting in was easy. Getting out was another story. On June 17, 2014, Alfonso, then 68, returned to Hinatuan to help stage a television shoot. Alongside 2 fellow divers, his task that day was simple: place extra air tanks inside the cave for the cameramen who would film later. The current was especially strong that day. Even experienced divers struggled against it, burning through their air much faster than normal. The 3 men entered, carried their tanks into position, and began swimming back out. But as the 2 younger divers pushed through, Alfonso began to lag behind. At first they assumed he was right behind them, but when they reached the surface pool, Alfonso never appeared. What exactly happened remains known only to the 2 men who dove with him, and they have remained tight-lipped. But rescuers later found Alfonso's body wedged inside the entry passage about 130 feet down. He had run out of air while fighting the current. The man who had spent his life saving others had perished in the very cave he had helped reveal to the world. His death was mourned across the Philippines. For those who knew him, Alfonso's story was a reminder that even the most skilled divers are at the mercy of nature when they descend into the unknown. Polish-born Artur Kozlowski moved to Ireland in 2006, carrying with him a new passion: cave diving. Ireland, with its hundreds of caves, became his playground. He trained quickly, and soon he was setting records, discovering hidden passages and mapping systems no one had ever explored. His motto was simple: go where others turn back. In 2007, he completed a daring traverse between 2 caves never before linked. A year later, he set the record for Ireland's deepest cave dive at over 300 feet. But more than records, Artur loved discovery. He spent thousands of hours underground, particularly in the Gort lowlands, where caves wound beneath the countryside like veins of stone. His favorite was Polonora Cave, a former community water source now known for its unpredictable floods and twisting underwater passages. By 2011, Artur had spent years planning one particular dive, one that would take him deeper than anyone had ever gone. On September 5, 2011, with support divers helping stage air tanks, Artur descended into Polonora. His plan was carefully laid: place decompression bottles along the way, explore a newly discovered shaft, then return by evening. He told his team, "Don't worry if I'm late. Only raise the alarm if I'm not back by 9 p.m. Hours passed. 7 o'clock came and went. Then 8. Still no Artur. Anxiety began to grow. At 9, rescue efforts began. Teams from the Irish Cave Rescue Organization descended, following the guide, ropes into the dark. Twice, rescuers had to turn back, the passages too narrow and the conditions too challenging. Finally, on a third attempt, they found him. Artur's body lay half a mile from the entrance, over 170 feet below the surface, further than anyone had ever ventured inside Polonora. Exactly what went wrong is still a mystery. Perhaps equipment failure, perhaps exhaustion, perhaps simply the crushing weight of being so deep underground, where even the smallest mistake is magnified. What's certain is that Artur's final dive cemented him as one of the bravest explorers of Ireland's caves. For the people of Gort, he wasn't just an outsider, he was family. His legacy remains in the maps he created and the passages he revealed, passages no one had dared attempt before him. Our final story takes us back to post-war Poland. Father Joseph Sikowski was a man of faith born in 1908. During World War II, he had been a beacon of courage, smuggling food, helping Jews escape persecution, and offering hope to those trapped in despair. By 1945, exhausted and seeking peace, Father Joseph traveled to the Tatra Mountains, near Zakopane, where his sister lived. The mountains offered solitude, a place to heal from the horrors of war. On July 25, 1945, he set out for a day hike. He told his sister he would return for dinner. He never came back. Days passed before search teams were notified. They combed the trails, but Father Joseph was gone. Weeks stretched into months. His disappearance became a mystery. It wasn't until January 1947, more than a year later, that the truth emerged. A naturalist exploring Mylna Cave stumbled upon human remains deep inside its winding passages. Authorities confirmed it was Father Joseph. Mylna Cave is notorious even today. Just over a mile long, it's a twisting maze of claustrophobic tunnels, sudden drops and blind turns. Temperatures hover around 50 degrees Fahrenheit with suffocating humidity. For the unprepared, it's disorienting and deadly. Investigators believe Father Joseph had entered with only a single lantern, already partially broken. At some point it must have failed, plunging him into absolute darkness. Alone, without proper gear, he crawled deeper into the wet, cold passages until hypothermia set in. He likely died within 24 hours of his light going out. His body was found 300 meters from the entrance, soaked, contorted against the jagged stone. His wallet still carried his papers. His guidebook was still in his bag. The cave was so narrow that rescuers couldn't carry him out intact. His remains had to be removed piece by piece. Father Joseph's grave now bears the date July 31st, 1945, though experts believe he may have died as early as the day after he vanished. His story is a haunting reminder of how easily the underground can become a tomb. One broken lantern, one wrong turn, and the darkness claims you forever. From a highway cave fire in Pennsylvania, to the deadly currents of a Philippine river, to Ireland's deepest underwater passages, to a priest lost in Poland's mountains, these stories remind us of one thing. Caves are as beautiful as they are unforgiving. For those who enter, preparation is everything. But even then, sometimes it isn't enough. Thank you for joining me in exploring these chilling true tales from the underground. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing for more stories of the strange, the tragic, and the unforgettable. And as always, stay safe, stay curious, and never underestimate the dark.